All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS live stream. Got the Friday live stream going here for you guys. Just a one-man live stream today. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in because I'll be able to answer them, more frequently and faster there. So just make sure to put those in the chat. If you guys are in this video, make sure to give a like as well. That just helps the channel out a little bit. So we're going to start out this video like we typically would, which is just going to be concentrating on that injury news. And there is a decent amount, but I don't know if many people are going to be able to really see the edges that some of this injury news we are getting is presenting. So we'll start with that. Give me a couple seconds here. All right, there we go. So just looking at right now, we do know that Donovan Mitchell is going to be a game time decision. On top of that, we know that Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio are going to be out. So I'll just start with that injury news. So looking at it right now, I'll pull up that team here, the Cavs on the model as well. So looking at it right now, we don't have Mitchell projected to get 8 minutes. Okay, so we know that. So with that, we can see someone like Darius Garland probably going to be a play that everyone's kind of going to. And we see that with his ownership, 43% on FanDuel, 33% on DraftKings. He is gaining a lot of ownership there. We can see it's going to be a close game as well. We can see the price is probably not up enough. And just looking at his stats with Donovan Mitchell off the court, does average 25 real life points, about 3 rebounds, about 9 assists, 2 steals, has a huge usage rate of about 29.7% and about 46 fantasy points. So yes, he is looking like he should be a good play. But the next player I want to point out, and I felt like he was going to be chalkier on DraftKings, and it makes sense why on FanDuel he's a little bit more chalky. LeVert. Okay, LeVert actually gets the most minutes with him off the court, or with those two off the court. Gets about a 5% bump in usage as well. Gets about 6 more real life points bump as well, and about 9 more fantasy points per 36 with those two off the court. So yes, he's very chalky on FanDuel, but I thought he was going to be the exact same chalk on DraftKings as well. So I think that could be a really good spot there. And honestly, he's someone that I'll probably just start out by putting into my builds today because if he's going to be that low one, I think that's going to be a great spot both in cash to gain some leverage and then also in some GPPs as well. It's just such a cheap price tag, especially in a great matchup going against OKC as well. Love the fact that we can play him at guard or forward as well. That just all adds up to him being a pretty solid play. Now, it is predicated on Donovan Mitchell sitting. And then, carrying on, we got Mobley and Jared Allen getting a lot of ownership. And that might just be due to the matchup, obviously, with the Thunder. And also just given the fact that it is a smaller slate, I think people are just rolling with it. Now, looking at the stats, like they are both solid. Mobley gets about 38 fantasy points per 36 with those two off the court, and Jared Allen gets about 37. So both fine plays. And then we do have some decent value here with Cleveland guard-wise. They are 2 players that do get some run. If you need a punt for value, we could go with one of the 2 here as well. But it's not like a spot I think we need to go crazy with. It's not something too crazy there. So I feel like we covered that Cleveland game, pretty well. Let's go ahead and get into the next game. I'm actually going to start out with the Milwaukee Bucks now with Bobby Portis. I'll just touch on that real quick because that situation hasn't changed too much from the last game because we saw Bobby out last game. So looking at, we do know that Bobby Portis is going to be out. And with that, we actually saw Pat Connaughton really go out and have a great night. Now, I think people are kind of flocking to Pat Connaughton because of that good night, which was awesome to see. Okay, we can see he just got hot from three-point land. Okay, just got hot shooting the basketball. 7 for 8, 5 for 6. It's kind of crazy that people are just seeing that production and just chasing it and not seeing why and just going like crazy with that. It's probably an easy fade. And I know like on a smaller slate at 4.1, especially on DraftKings, like it's weird to fade, but at the same time, it does make some sense. That was the higher scoring game. And this should be a high scoring game as well. Don't get me wrong, but chances are it's going to be someone else getting hot. Like who's to say it can't be Grayson Allen getting hot shooting the basketball today? Shot 6 3-ball attempts. What if he goes 5 for 6? He still had 21 DK points. I think that'd be a logical pivot. And like, we're just hoping that Allen is the one that gets hot instead of Pat Connaughton. And Grayson Allen's pretty chalky as well on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, like I'd much rather play Grayson Allen over Pat Connaughton and gain that leverage on the field there. Just kind of looking through it as well. Yeah, Brooke, I feel like is still in a pretty decent spot on DraftKings. That's a cheap price tag. He could go off against Indy. That wouldn't be too shocking. I feel like if you can pay up for Giannis, you probably should be doing that. I do like Drew today as well. I just feel like he's priced up a little bit too much. Probably not going to be someone that breaks the slate. So I don't feel like he's a must play either. So, just decent plays there. I would say, it's Grayson Allen over Pat. And then the next one, let's just talk about Memphis. Okay. So Memphis, we got to get news on Ja Morant playing. It's expected to play. Desmond Bane as well is also expected to play. So those two should be good to go. What we do know is that Steven Adams is out and John Contra is out as well. So with that, we are seeing, some minutes go to Dylan Brooks, some minutes go to Brennan Clark. We can see, is Tillman still going to get the minutes? We haven't projected to get 21 minutes. So that's part of what we need to figure out. And so this is like the last live stream we had where we were pretty much saying, like, Tillman's a great play if he's starting. If he's not, not as good of a play. And so I feel like that's going to be the exact same situation today. And just looking at the stats, like that, it kind of echoes that as well. Like Brandon Clark has the most minutes with Adams off the court. Okay, so I know Tillman hasn't played all too much this season, but he gets less minutes. So I am expecting Clark to start. I think that should be the expectation as well. So the question is, can we play Brandon Clark then at that cheap price tag? Going against Minnesota, maybe. And it's more or less if Rudy Gobert is out, and I'll touch on that in just a second as well here. But Clark, he did play a lot of minutes last game, okay? And with that was able to put up 33 DK points. And if we look at his per 36 numbers with Adams and Contra off the court, it is around 36 fantasy points per 36. So if he's going to get around 30 minutes at 4.9, if Gobert's out, and I'm saying if Gobert's out because, yes, you probably expect him to play. He's played the last 2 games with this injury, but they are on a front end of a back-to-back. So there is the chance that Gobert could sit. If he does sit, obviously that makes this matchup for Clark much better. And this is a cheap price tag for him. I think he could be in a good spot. Once again, just need to confirm that he is starting. And then Tyus Jones, I guess I just wouldn't be shocked if he got more run in tonight's game. If he gets around 30 minutes, definitely a hit or miss play. But if he does get around 30 minutes, would be a good play there. He's actually the one that has the most minutes with those 2 players out. So they kind of shift to a smaller unit. All right, so we're going to move on into the next game here. And let's see. Yeah, the Timberwolves. Okay. So we don't have any direct injury news just yet. The biggest one is going to be Prince is out and Cat is out. Okay. So we don't really know how to plan for that for say. Now, if we get news that Cat and Gobert are out, you're loading up on Edwards, you're loading up on Reed, you're loading up on Noel, and it's just kind of as simple as that. And then the game that I think is going to be very sneaky in terms of value that's out there is looking at the OKC Thunder. So we know that they're going to be without Robinson Earl, Alexei, and Dort. Okay, so that's going to open up some minutes. And we did see some minutes go to someone like Kendrick Williams. Last game, he actually started for them, or he's projected to start today. And that's kind of my expectation. He's going to be a good play today as well. And he's someone I'm probably going out of my way to play. So let me just pull that up. I saw a question in there. I'll get to that after this segment. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in. So looking at, this is a cheap price tag for him. And sure, the matchup against Cleveland, obviously, their 2 bigs are pretty talented there defensively. That would be the biggest worry. Okay, we've seen Kendrick Williams, get 30 minutes last game. And I'm kind of expecting that to happen again. If you look at his per 36 numbers, he does average around 32 fantasy points, which are pretty solid numbers. It's going to be tough for me not to chase that a little bit on this slate at this price tag, it's appealing to me. And I'm also curious to see what we have for man's minutes. 17.3. I could see that being higher. And I know it hasn't been recently, but if you look at the numbers with those three players off the court, it's actually man that has the most minutes. And so it definitely is a risky play because obviously this stuff changes throughout the year and whatnot. I wouldn't say like hammer this, but if you wanted to take some shots on him, potentially getting 17, and that's what we got him projected at, or more minutes, like 20, 25, that could be a nice spot at the minimum price. And you're not going crazy with it. It'd be a GPP only play, but it is something you could potentially do. And then just looking at it a little bit more, SGA has been going off recently. His per 36 numbers are off the chart with those three players off the court. It's like 59 fantasy points per 36, but he does get a difficult matchup going against Cleveland. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's out, so maybe that helps a little bit, but it's risk reward based there for sure. I would say I'd rather try to get up to Giannis. Like if I'm paying up, you could roll with this. Let me check out the point spread here of this game. Okay, -2 or 2.5. Okay, there's not that much blowout risk. It's not that high of a scoring game, but as we can see, all the Thunder players are kind of undervalued. And so that could just be a spot in general to the point where we are gaining some huge leverage on the field. Some people are going to Aaron Wiggins. I don't love that specifically, but 3.1 on DraftKings is pretty cheap. It's really just you're betting on which players are going to get the minutes there. Is it going to be Wiggins? Is it going to be Man? It could be Joe, but he's the lowest man on there. It goes Man, Wiggins, Joe for the allocation of minutes with those three players off the court. Just pulling up the projected starting lineup. It is Aaron Wiggins projected in the starting lineup. So, yeah, I could see favoring Aaron Wiggins there. It's not like a lock and load, though. Is what it is. Okay, so let me see if we got a question here. What's your thoughts? What are your favorite plays tonight? And which team should I target? Kind of new to DFS, just can't cash. Okay. Kind of just going through the thoughts right now. I want to look at it in terms of like what are the favorite teams to target on each slate. It's really where are the best plays that we're getting value wise? Who are the safest plays? And if you're playing cash, you kind of focus on more safety. NBA DFS is a little bit different in the sense that sometimes the cash line is higher in terms of getting into the green, I guess, than it is for GPPs. Sometimes the GPPs, because everyone's doing kind of risk reward based lineups, sometimes it's easier to hit the cash line in GPPs than it is in cash contests. So it's kind of unique in that sense. It's just kind of something you got to get used to. It's very much being around your computer or phone, being around the news before lineup lock and even after lineup lock, because that really does change the dynamic of the slate. Like I mentioned with Memphis, if we get news that Tillman is going to start instead of Clark, then we would have to pivot to Tillman at a cheap price tag. And so that's part of it as well. But no, I wouldn't look at it in terms of like which teams you should specifically be targeting. Obviously, if there's a favorable game, that's a close game that we are getting a lot of value, you can make a great build on, target that game. But it really just depends on the slate. It's always unique in that sense that it really goes slate by slate. How many calves is too many calves? I typically don't like to go over 4, and that is a high number, I know, but there are slates in which we are getting insane value, in which you could just sometimes do 6. I don't know, like, is Garland a great play? He is. Okay. Should be able to go off, especially against OKC. I like LeVert at that price tag. Oroku, you could go as well. Far from a lock and load, but if you get 20 points at 3.7, you would certainly take that. Mobley, everyone is going to flock to tonight against OKC, and I would agree with that. Let's see. And then Jared Allen. Yeah, I would say these 3 would be the 3 I'd prioritize right here. Allen, Mobley, and LeVert. And then if you can fit in Garland, and this is probably very chalky, you could do that. The issue with it is then we would have to run it back. And then who are we run it back with? Maybe Shy. I don't mind that. He could easily go for 50 plus. I don't mind that approach. Giddy, I don't really like. I probably would go with Kenrick Williams. Cheap price. But you would hope that he doesn't get into foul trouble or anything or really get shut down by those two. So that'd be the biggest thing there. So I would say, honestly, 4 is pretty ideal. Obviously, you don't want to go over that too much, but it's tough to stack it. Yeah, I'd say that's correct. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the values here. Once again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in. I'll answer those at the end of each segment. So let's just go ahead and look at the top values that we have on this FanDuel slate as it sits right now. So we can see 7K is going to be a very cheap price tag for Russell on the slate. But part of the issue with that is that he's very chalky. We are seeing a lot of chalk today. And really, to me, I would say Russell is not a lock and load tonight. It does benefit if Gobert's off the court. He's a solid play, don't get me wrong, but I feel like we could find just as good of plays at that 7K price point range. And let's just look real quick. So sorting it by salary. You got Bane there. TJ McConnell finally priced up. Tyler Hero. Mobley there is pretty chalky. Clay could go off. Buddy's there. Buddy's that's a cheap price tag. Tyus we got there. And Buddy's pretty low owned. I'd probably prioritize him over Russell. So we got some pivots you can make there. But looking at like LeVert, you're probably just playing on both slates, eating the chalk. We got my boy Kenrick Williams there popping up. Strong price point play across the board there. Jaren Jackson Jr., a much better play on DraftKings, and he is someone that's not getting that much ownership. Let me just pull that up here and see kind of why. Gets a good matchup against Minnesota. Didn't get that many minutes against the Warriors, but, fouled out. Is it because he hasn't had that ceiling game that people are really expecting? When we got news that Adams was going to be out for a while, that could potentially be. Especially if we get news that Gobert does sit on the front end of a back-to-back, would be a good spot. I mean, look at the last time we played Minnesota, 33, almost 34 DK points on 25 minutes. You give him 10 more minutes or so. Let's just say 8 more minutes. Could really go off and break the slate. So I think that could be a great spot there. Obviously, ranking out as a good value play. This is pretty crazy, guys. Giannis is popping up as one of the better FanDuel value price point plays that are out there. This is a slate in which I do think we can pay up for studs. You can pay up for Giannis if you need to or want to, and I think that you should want to. It's going to be a good spot going against Indy. It's a higher scoring game, although they're projected to blow them out. If they're blowing them out, it's going to be because of Giannis. Okay, so I like that approach there. Brooks popping up there. We got Garland. Okay. So we kind of get that. I thought Brandon Clark would be popping up there a little bit more, but we can see the price difference there. Let's go ahead and sort it by DK value. Okay, so we got Jaden McDaniels popping up there. Once again, I already mentioned this. Like, I don't feel the need to go crazy with Pat Connaughton. Had a hot night shooting last night. Who's to say that's going to continue? Who's to say that can't be Grayson Allen tonight? You're just chasing that upside. And sure, it's a soft price tag, and I think people are really liking that, especially on FanDuel. Like 5.3, that's a lot to pay out for him. Could it happen again? Sure. Will it? Most likely not. So it's just weird that he's getting that much there. Rudy Gobert actually would be in a pretty good spot there against Memphis. That is very interesting. Yeah, he's pretty chalky. If you're going 2 centers, it's pretty easy to end up on him. Heck, you go. Let's see. Let me see this lineup that I have that I'm working with here. Could probably put Mobley at the forward instead. And then we could go Rudy there. Now that's looking, oh gosh, we'll do this first. This is looking like a pretty solid build to start out the day. A nice floor build, honestly. Kind of liking that. Have a lot of salary left over to fill in 2 spots. Could move Levert to forward if we need to. It's a good start to the build. So looking at Aaron Naismith, you could potentially play at 3.4, popping up decently. Let's see what minutes he's projected to get. 26, I guess. Blowout potential, could get more. Russell, I didn't really like Russell too much. I'd rather get on Brandon Clark as well. Yeah, we kind of get that sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to projected ownerships here. We kind of know the sense of this. I already went through this a decent amount. Makes sense with an OKC player. Yeah. I honestly don't mind the idea of going SGA. Let me see what he did last time out against them. I don't remember. All right, so obviously tough matchup. I don't know if he played against them last time. I can't remember. Okay, he did. Only 33 DK points against them. Fouled out. I don't mind it, though. It's going to be lower owned than he should be given his recent production. 3 straight games over 50 DK points. That's a tough one. I kind of like it. So is it best to play the most chalky plays and then some low-owned GPP plays? I mean, for the most part, this goes for NFL DFS as well. The community's sharp. No one's like too chalky. That shouldn't be it. I mentioned Pat Connaughton. Yeah, I would say that is strange chalk. But for the most part, players are chalky for a reason because they're good plays. The way I typically get unique, especially if you are someone that's playing like a cash build, a single entry build, one main build, it's just kind of through the natural lineup process. If you are trying to do like with this build, there's a good chance these are all pretty chalky plays. Clark is not as chalky as I think he should be, but we can see that I will probably end up on a player that's not going to be too high owned to close out this build, or maybe 2 players that are not too high owned. So really, just focus on making the best build possible. It sounds kind of simple, but it's crazy how many people don't do that. So if you are doing one main build, please do that. Please focus on that. And then naturally, you'll start to kind of pick it up a little bit more as you progress into playing it more and more frequently. So, yeah, the question is, does SGA really have that high of usage rate with Dort, Alexei, and James Earl Robinson off the court? Is it really 40%? No, it's not actually. It's 41.5 with them off the court. So yeah, it's an insane usage rate, and you would obviously think that would probably get a little bit corrected, but it's a big sample size. There's like almost 300 minutes going into that. Almost. It's 270 something or so. That's a pretty big sample size. It's not like it's a small sample size going into that. And the issue is it seems like no one else really steps up. Strange. Like the next highest usage rate is Jalen Williams. And that's kind of ugly. It's crazy there. You are seeing that correctly though. And I think it comes mostly due to the fact that Dort and SGA are just on the court a lot together. But that's pretty crazy right there. Okay, so now going to get into the projection ownerships here. So just starting with FanDuel, and hopefully we can find some leverage spots. I do think that these 2 players are chalk, or these 3 players are chalky for Cleveland for a reason. It just kind of makes sense. Okay, D'Angelo Russell. Let me just pull this up on DraftKings. I like looking at their game log a little bit more. See if I can get convinced into it. Is it just a Memphis thing, a recent production thing? Guess it's more of a recent production thing. I guess I get it. Went for 41 against them last time. I get it. Can I put him in the guard spot, or is that taken? I don't mind that. So this is looking like a pretty chalky build, but we have a primary stack and a secondary stack going into the build here. It's okay. I don't mind that. That is a lot of chalk, though. Could easily get to TJ McConnell, who, if that game stays close, is going to be, the reason why. That's difficult. That NBA DFS right there. That's the fun part of this stuff. Okay, so let's continue on. TJ McConnell, still pretty chalky there. Brendan Clark, cheap price tag there on FanDuel, cheaper on DraftKings. And that's strange that he's more high owned on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. I would expect that to get corrected. I would expect this to be closer. Jared Allen, very chalky on both sites. Isaiah Joe, and this is definitely a price point thing. People are betting on getting lucky, really. 22 minutes, and he is someone that's, could get minutes. I kind of think it's going to be man, but you never know. He is getting that much ownership simply because of price point, though, and because he has had productive games with those players off the court. But interesting. Let's see. We kind of get it. Let's look at DraftKings. So Allen, very chalky. Gobert, pretty chalky. TJ McConnell is higher owned than Russell. I feel like that's a coin flip, though. Fine with either. Pat Connaughton, I don't get it. That's going to make me mad. Especially when he goes off for 50 tonight instead of 40. No, it's going to be Grayson Allen. I just don't get the difference. They're basically the same price. Grayson's 9%. Pat's 22. That's strange. It's not like Pat would really get a bump and run if it's a blowout either. Weird. Drew could be a potential leverage spot. I mean, he's only going to put up like 45 if it really goes off. But, if we potentially get news that Giannis is out, which I don't think he will, he's probable. He could be a really strong play then. But I'm expecting him to play. It's kind of crazy how far Kyle Lowry's fallen. It wouldn't be shocking to see any of these players right here like kind of go off and have a good game at a lower ownership. Mathurin, Bane. It just wouldn't be shocking, especially if the Bucks blow out Indy. Like you could see Mathurin getting more run. So I'm kind of fine with that. And I don't know. I kind of like man. If we're getting 22 minutes from man, I feel like that's a decent play at the minimum price. It could be a really good spot. I guess 17 minutes. Sorry, I was looking at Wade. Interesting there. So we got a question here. Do we need anyone from the Bucks game, especially if the game blows out? I mean, yeah, I would say yeah. Like Giannis, it's pretty easy to fit Giannis into your builds if you want to, if you choose to do so. And he could easily go for 60, in this matchup with Indy. If it is a blowout, it's going to be because of Giannis. And let's look at the games that have been blowouts in favor of the Bucks blowing out a team. Okay, 50 against Detroit. I would say that's a pretty similar matchup. Let's see another one that they destroyed a team. And that's part of it. Like they haven't been really dominating against the Warriors. 56. The Kings kind of 54. Dallas 51. And we could keep going down the list. If it is a blowout, it's going to be because Giannis is feasting. Okay, so I kind of want to prioritize Giannis because I think there's a good chance we get 55, 60 out of him. And on a slate in which, I would say Curry's like hit or miss as a play, you're really chasing some upside there, chasing 56 points. which, you know, obviously the price difference, you would take 56 from him at his price tag, but it's less likely. John Morant just went for 56, but he does feel slightly priced up as well. Could he get there? Certainly. But for me, like if I'm paying up for a guard, I would rather just go with someone like Fred VanVleet, who continues to play well. And so that's a route that I would rather go. You know, he's been over like 40 DK points, 5 straight games now. Let's see what he did against Golden State the last time. 42 against them the last time. So like if I'm paying up for a guard, essentially I would want to go with someone like Fred VanVleet, or potentially maybe just go with, you know, mention SGA is a good play. I don't mind that. Could go Drew Holiday against Indy as well. But looking at it, you know, the more I look at it, the more I don't mind Grayson Allen at 4.4. I mean, shot 6 3-ball attempts, made 2 of them. Can he make a few more and get to 30 DK points? Sure. You know, that could easily happen. And let me just pull up Brook. I wouldn't say like Brooks a must play, but, you know, 1 for 30 against him the last time. So you could end up on him too. It's not like someone you're going out of your way to play. I feel like we do want to try to get up to Giannis. And probably when I finish this video, it's going to be something I try to do. So the biggest issue with Orlando there is simply the fact that they are playing like all their guys right now. And so although you could get lucky with a play, you know, they're all pretty cheap. You could get lucky with the play going off. It is just guessing. And yes, we know that a lot of DFS is trying to get lucky, but it really just feels like we're trying to get lucky there. I don't think it's too many. I think it's chalky. So like this build that I have going currently does have 4 Cavs in it. And so it really just depends on like contest selection. And I don't mind it right now. I'm fine with this. I'd be perfectly happy to put out a build like this. The issue with this build is that I probably would want to try to get to like someone like Kendrick Williams if I'm running out this build, you know? Guard wise, we don't have much. Can we go with Mathurin? Lower owned? And this is where I was saying, like, no matter how you close out your build, it's always, typically speaking, going to be someone that's pretty low owned. You know, 38 and 40, I guess. Don't feel great about that, but could be a way to finish it out. So not a bad build. All right, so guys, I'll probably be ending this stream a little, you know, pretty soon here. If there's any questions, make sure to get those in, and then I'll be getting out of here in about 2 minutes if there's, you know, not too many questions. The nice thing that we have about this slate, or going on with this slate, is the fact that, sure, we could get some slate breaking news, and if we do, make sure to be in the Discord chat before lock. Okay. For those of you guys that don't know, the link to the Discord chat is going to be in the links in the description below, as well as access to the tools that you saw in this video. You know, there is the lineup builder that I didn't pull up, but it has everything associated with the tools that I showed you guys in there. So you can make sure to check that out as well. What's Curry's ownership? Okay, I'll pull up Curry's. So Curry he's actually really chalky on Yahoo. That's funny. 40% on Yahoo. On DK5, on FanDuel 5. Okay. It looks like the 4 Cav lineup is going to be very popular. Is it though? I mean, I know it is, but are people really going to play 4 Cavs? That's my biggest question. Maybe. And I've kind of been defaulting to playing one of Mobley or Allen, but they're just so cheap. It's the issue. They're just so cheap. I don't know if you have to play Garland. Okay, that'd be probably the spot in which you could switch. The chances of like Fred VanVleet having like a similar game are kind of the same. Then you're saving $300, so you could easily make that pivot there. So it's not like too crazy there. The one player that I feel like is a must play would be LeVert. And then you could pick and choose Mobley or Allen. And Garland should be a great play, don't get me wrong, but you could easily pivot to Van Fleet or even try to get up to maybe SGA. We have maybe some decent value with Tyus Jones. There are pivots you can make there. Okay, I don't think we got any more questions coming in. So that's going to be all for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give a like. That helps out the channel. That helps out the video. We are trying to do these more frequently. So I think we're going to try Monday, Wednesday, maybe Friday as well going forward. Obviously, if it takes off and continues to help the channel, we'll continue to pump that out for you guys. So if you enjoy it, make sure to be in here on, I think it'll be Monday. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want access to any of the tools, make sure to click the links in the description below. If you guys have any questions, make sure to get in the Discord chat, which is also listed in the links in the description below. All right, let's have a good slate. And as always, good luck.